You see, complete all names in English and in your native language, for example, Arabic, Cyrillic, Chinese, etc. Then include all family members, even if they're not accompanying you to Canada. This is important. And if you need more space for any section, print out the additional page containing the appropriate section, complete and submit it with your application. So this is why I told you it's important to print it, because for our friends from India who have long names, this little box here is not enough. Section A applies to the applicant and their direct family. So you can see the applicant is here, and then we have the spouse or common law partner, the mother and the father. For each person, we need to enter the name, the marital status, their date of birth, their country of birth, their present address, and their present occupation. If the person is deceased, we need to enter the city where that person passed away, the country, and the date of their passing. And finally, in the last column, we need to answer yes or no to the question, will this person accompany you meaning the principal applicant, to Canada? This is section A. Note 1 here, this is really important. If no spouse or common law partner is listed in section A, read and sign below. So if you have a spouse or a common law partner that you entered here, you do not sign here. I repeat, you do not sign here. This is counterintuitive, but it's the way CIC did it, so follow the instructions. Okay? Section B is about children. So you need to enter all your information about your children, and if you have no children, you enter the date and you sign section B. And finally, section C is about the brothers and sisters. Here again, you must include all brothers and sisters, all half or step brothers and step sisters. So one important thing for people who have too many siblings is that you see at the top right corner, you have page 2 of 2. Let's say, for example, that you have 8 siblings and you don't have enough space here for all of them. What you need to do is print an additional copy of this form. And at the top, you're going to scratch here and you're going to enter page 2 out of 3. And in your last copy, you're going to enter page 3 out of 3. This is what's going to help the immigration officers understand that there is an additional copy, and it will reduce mistakes in your application. Okay, let's start with our applicant, Rajesh Singh. Here you can see that if I press enter, I go directly to the second line. If your native language is in an alphabet that can work under Adobe PDF, then you can write it under your name in English. However, for Hindi, for example, it doesn't work. What you're going to have is those interrogation mark. We don't want that. In this case, you're going to leave this part blank and you're going to print it and fill it out manually later on. But let's continue with our applicant, and we're going to return to this at the end. Marital status, here you need to enter all that applies to our applicant. Our applicant is married, and you can see that under married you have physically present. That means if you were physically present at your wedding or not physically present at your wedding. Legally separated under a court order. Annulled marriage also under a court order. Common law is if you are living with your partner in the same house for at least a period of 1 year. Divorced, single, and widowed are pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to click for our applicant married with physically present. The date of birth here, make sure that you follow the format, which is year, month, and date. Then we have the country of birth, the present address, and the present occupation. Once you do this for the principal applicant, you need to do the same for their spouse and for each of their parent. And here we have to answer the question, will Raj's spouse accompany him to Canada? We're going to select yes. and move to the parent section. Then we do the same for Raj's mother. And here, because Raj's late father is deceased, we're going to enter deceased, and we're going to add the city, the country, and the date. Okay, this is how we fill out section A, and if you read the note number 1, if no spouse or common law partner is listed in section A, read and sign below. Here, because we did list a spouse, there is no signature needed, so make sure you leave this field blank here. Okay, now we're going to move to section B about children. If you're watching so far, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to support the channel. That really tells YouTube that we're making quality content and it helps me create more of it. Okay, so section B is about the children. Raj and Parul have no children, so we're going to leave this field blank, all of it. And under note number 2, you can see that if no children are listed in section B, read and sign below. So this is what we're going to do. We have no children, but here we cannot write any names. So this PDF does not let us write under the signature. That's why we need to print the form, sign, and date manually. If you do have children, you're going to write their name here, their marital status, their relationship to you, and that could be son, adopted daughter, stepson, or stepdaughter. You enter as well their date of birth, their country of birth, their present address, their present occupation, and whether or not they will accompany you to Canada. This table follows the same principle as the first one, so you just repeat the information. Now, because Raj and Parul do not have children, we will need to print this form when it's finished and sign manually the section B, as well as add the date of the signature. Okay, now we move to section C, which is the last one, and section C is about brothers and sisters. So here again, we're going to enter Raj's brother, we're going to enter Raj's sister, their information, present address, present occupation, and whether or no they'll be accompanying him to Canada. Okay, now that we have finished filling out the form, we printed it and we signed it manually. So after doing this is what it looks like. So I printed the form, right? I signed the appropriate section. Here I didn't sign the note number 1 because Rajesh Singh has a spouse, so we're going to leave this part blank, but we're going to sign here because there are no children listed in this part. And that's what note number 2 says. If no children are listed in section B, read and sign below, which is exactly what we did. So we have the name, everything must be printed in black, the signature and the date. Okay? And we're going to move to the last part here for the brothers and sisters certification. This is where you have to sign for the entire document. So we see the name, the signature, and the date. Now, why I told you that you need to print it, because remember, the first thing is that you need to complete all names in English and in your native language. So below your name, because you wrote on the first line, you wrote your name in English, all this yellow part here is where you have to enter in your native language. And because not all alphabets are working in Adobe PDF, you may need to do that manually. So under each name that you wrote in English, you have to write as well in your native language. If your native language has no alphabet and can only be spoken, in this case, you do not write anything, you just leave the name in English. Okay? Once you do this, then you make sure to double check that you have the latest version up to date, that you signed all the appropriate sections. In our case, it's not section A because Raj is married. Section B is signed because he has no children, and Section G is signed because that's what validates the forms. So once you do that, you need to save this document, and then you will need to upload it to your online application to join as a supportive document. This immigration form is used for visitor visa application, for work permits, for study permit, and for other types of visa applications to Canada. Make sure if you are filling this form is because it was asked in your personal checklist when you submitted your admissibility questionnaire on the CIC website. In this case, you need to fill it out properly, sign it where asked, and upload it to your personal checklist. Now, if your name is too long and you don't have enough space right here, what I suggest people do is that you print your name on a piece of paper, write it really small in the computer, but make sure you print it right, because as you can see here, it's a very small space. And for people with long names, it doesn't usually fit. So write it, print it, and then you can glue that on a sticker or on a little piece of paper so it fits right here. Now, if you have more children or siblings that the space that they're giving you here, what you can do is print an additional copy, and in the copy, you're just going to write at the top, you're going to scratch this where it says page 1 out of 2, and you're going to write page 1 out of number of pages that you have in total. So let's say, for example, that section B, you have 5 children, so you're going to need to print this one, another copy of section B, and you have 10 siblings, you need to print another copy of section C. In total, you will have 4 pages, so you're going to scratch and write page 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4, and 4 out of 4, and make sure that you add your initials at the bottom to validate that even though it's an additional document, it counts for the family information form. That's it. I know it's a lot to cover. I hope you found this information useful. If you have any question, you can write them in the comments below. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.